Hello guys, welcome back into another video, and today guys, we've made it. Today, as you are watching this video, is the 25th of April, and you know what that means. Tonight, Avengers Endgame is out in theaters. You have no idea. We finally made it after all of this time waiting after Infinity War to see what happened. We've finally made it. So if you guys saw in the last video, I gave you a complete and utter rundown of the entire MCU up into this point. And today I thought we would get a little more specific. And by specific, I mean, how does each movie tie in to Endgame? Specifically, what is introduced in each movie and what do we learn from each movie that has some sort of impact in Endgame? I have it all listed out here. We start with Iron Man all the way down into Captain Marvel. And yeah, guys, sit back, relax. We're going to go through every single film in the MCU and let's just jump into it. So we're going to start off with Iron Man. Of course, the first movie to start off the MCU. We meet Tony Stark. We meet the man that started it all, Iron Man himself. We are introduced to the mini arc reactor and the Iron Man suit. We see the progression of the Iron Man suit. We're introduced to S.H.I.E.L.D. and we're introduced to Agent Coulson very briefly. And then we have the post-credit scene where we meet Nick Fury for the first time and we get a tease to the Avengers Initiative.
Who the hell are you?
Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh.
I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative.
Then we go into the Incredible Hulk, where we are introduced to Dr. Bruce Banner. We are introduced to the first instance of the super soldier serum and that type of concept, and we meet the Hulk and learn his origin. That's the biggest things. And then the post-credit scene, you have Tony Stark again teasing the Avengers Initiative, where he is trying to recruit the Hulk. Then we go into Iron Man 2. The big thing in Iron Man 2 is the first attempt at government regulation of the Iron Man suit. Government regulation is going to have a very big role in a movie that we were going to talk about a little bit down the line.
I have successfully privatized world peace.
We see Tony create a new element. We get a bigger introduction to S.H.I.E.L.D. We meet War Machine and we meet Black Widow. Big ones. And then in the post-credit scene, we have the first look at Thor's hammer, which ties right in to the next movie, which is Thor. We are introduced to Thor, and we learn somewhat of his origin. We're introduced to Asgard in the 9 Realms. We're given more of an introduction to Asgard. Well, we're given a full introduction to Asgard, and then we are given a rundown of the 9 Realms. We're introduced to Loki. I love Loki. We learn about the Bifrost, which is also important. We see the Tesseract, aka the Space Stone, in post-credit scene. And we are introduced to Hawkeye for a very, very split second, but we are introduced to Hawkeye in this film. Then we have Captain America, the First Avenger. We're introduced to Steve Rogers, big ticket in this film. We learn about Captain America's origin. This is where we really learn about the super soldier serum. This is the movie right here. We meet Bucky Barnes, who will eventually be the Winter Soldier. We're introduced to the Red Skull and Hydra. We have our first mention of vibranium, which is what Cap's shield is made out of. We're fully introduced to the Tesseract and its power, yet we don't know it's an Infinity Stone yet. We meet Howard Stark and see the early S.H.I.E.L.D. members, and we learn how Cap got frozen in the ice. Now, to wrap up Phase 1, we go into the Avengers. It's the team up of the century. We're introduced to Loki's scepter, which we will learn in later movies houses the Mind Stone. We see the full force of S.H.I.E.L.D. We get the helicarrier. We see all of everything. Bruce Banner's recast. That's not a big thing, but he is recast from Edward Norton to Mark Ruffalo.
I'm always angry.
We have the first instance of extraterrestrial beings on Earth, besides Thor. We are introduced to Thanos briefly in the post-credits scene. Then in Iron Man 3, we're not really introduced to much. We have Tony, who is filled with anxiety. We see some of the fallout of the Battle of New York. Tony destroys all of his suits, and it's the end of the Iron Man trilogy. That's really what happens. We're introduced to the Thor: The Dark World. We're introduced to the Reality Stone. Like or hate the movie, it's a big deal. We're introduced to the Collector in the post-credit scene. Thor's mom dies, and Loki dies again. Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Hydra is back, and S.H.I.E.L.D. is compromised. We learn of Agent 13, who's Peggy Carter's niece. The helicarriers are destroyed. It's a big deal. S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra's secrets are all leaked to the public, and the twins are introduced briefly in the post-credit scene. We are also introduced to Falcon. Then we move into Guardians of the Galaxy. This is a big one. We're introduced to the Guardians in their origins. We're introduced to Thanos' daughters, Gamora and Nebula. We're introduced to both of them. We're introduced to Ronan, who is a radical follower of Thanos, and we will see him in a later movie. We're introduced to the Power Stone for the first time. Big ticket of this film. The Nova Corps is introduced, and we have, obviously, the famous dance-off at the end.
Dance off, bro. Me and you.
Then we have Avengers Age of Ultron. We are introduced to Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, two brand new characters, both made with the power of the Mind Stone. Their powers are made with the power of the Mind Stone. Tony and Bruce use Loki's scepter, again, unknowingly housing the Mind Stone to create Ultron. We're introduced to Ulysses Klaue and have more references to Wakanda and more references to Vibranium. Vision is created and the Mind Stone is revealed from the scepter finally. The Mind Stone is revealed and Vision is created. And the new Avengers facility is made. We go into Ant-Man. We're introduced to Scott Lang. We see his origin as Ant-Man. We're introduced to Hank Pym and Hope Van Dyne. We're introduced to the Pym particle and the Ant-Man tech. And we have the first talk of the Quantum Realm. Quantum Realm. Big ticket item in Endgame. Captain America Civil War. The big thing is the Sokovia Accords. Remember when I said when we were talking about Iron Man 2, government regulation? That's what this is. Team Cap, Captain America, Falcon, Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, Ant-Man, and Bucky are now fugitives because they do not sign the Sokovia Accords. Team Iron Man is on the side of the law. It's everyone that we didn't talk about. The first attempt to keep the Avengers in check and under government regulation. That's the biggest thing about this movie. We're introduced to Black Panther and Spider-Man, and we learn of Bucky killing Tony's parents. And now with this movie, the Avengers are divided. That's big. That's big. It has big consequences. Into Doctor Strange, we learn of Doctor Strange and his origins. We're introduced to Wong and the Ancient One. We learn of the world of mystic arts for, I believe, the first time. This is the first time seeing the Eye of Agamotto, which holds the Time Stone. The first time we see the Time Stone. Now into Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, we are introduced to Mantis and Ego, and we learn that Peter is only half human. He is half celestial. Celestial? Whatever. Then we go into Spider-Man Homecoming. We get an in-depth introduction to Peter Parker. We only saw him very briefly in Civil War. We see more of the aftermath of the Battle of New York. Introduced to the Vulture. We see that Tony's moving out of Avengers Tower. He's moving to the Avengers facility in upstate New York. That was kind of talked about in Civil War at the very end. We get a glimpse of the Iron Spider suit. And, cool little one, Tony proposes to Pepper. Not a big deal, but, we followed these characters for a while. Thor Ragnarok. This is a big one. Thor loses Mjolnir. His security blanket. He loses Mjolnir. We're introduced to Hela. We learn the true origin of Asgard and the evil that was behind the origin of Asgard. We see Hulk for the first time since Age of Ultron. We are introduced to the Headmaster. And Thanos shows up in the post-credit scene tying directly into Infinity War. A big thing I left off the list is that Asgard is destroyed. Surtur kills Asgard, destroys Asgard, which means that Asgard is no longer protecting Nidavellir, where Stormbreaker and Mjolnir came from, which means Thanos can go make an Infinity Gauntlet because he goes and attacks and Asgard's not there to save him. That's a big thing I left off. Then we go into Black Panther. First formal introduction to T'Challa and Black Panther. Obviously, we meet him in Civil War, but this is his movie. This is the first full introduction to Wakanda and Vibranium. We learn how you become king in the Black Panther and Wakanda. We learn all of that. And then T'Challa opens up Wakanda to the world at the end of the movie. Then we go into Avengers Infinity War. This is the one that's the biggest tie into Endgame because it literally ties directly into Endgame. So it's the ultimate team up of the century. Thanos is off to collect all of the Infinity Stones by himself. We finally see the true power of all the Infinity Stones. Space, power, time, mind, and reality. We see the full power. Thanos uses all of them at one point or another, and we see their full power. We're finally introduced to the sixth and final stone, the Soul Stone. Spoilers. Gamora, Heimdall, Loki, and Vision all dead. They're dead. Thanos accomplishes his goal and snaps. That ties directly into Endgame. The decimation happens. The original 6 Avengers, along with Nebula, Rocket, War Machine, Wong, Okoye, and M'Baku, are all that remain. All that remain. This is the big ticket because this is the one that literally ties directly into Endgame. So, that's the big deal. We go into Ant-Man and the Wasp. We're introduced to the Wasp. We see the fallout from Scott in Civil War. We have a bigger introduction of the Quantum Realm, which is a big thing that's going to be involved in Endgame. Hank, Janet, and Hope are all snapped in the post-credit scene, and Scott is stuck in the Quantum Realm. We're probably not going to see Scott until a little while into the movie because he's going to be getting out of the Quantum Realm. It's important stuff to remember. Then we go into the final film, and that is Captain Marvel. We're introduced to Carol Danvers, and we have the origin of Captain Marvel. We're introduced to the Kree and the Skrulls. We see young Nick Fury and learn more about his origin. We learn about the Kree-Skrull War. Project Pegasus we learn about. We have more info on Ronan and the Accusers. We meet Goose, who is a Flurkin. It's the first time we've heard of a Flurkin. This is another movie with the Tesseract in it. We get the naming of the Avengers Initiative, and we learn how Fury loses his eye. One thing I forgot to mention in Avengers Infinity War. Nick Fury and Maria Hill also get snapped, and in the post-credit scene, we see Nick Fury use his pager to call Captain Marvel. In Captain Marvel, we see her give the pager to Nick Fury for emergencies only. And then into the post-credit scene of Captain Marvel, it's footage from Endgame where Captain Marvel shows up at the Avengers facility. And there's the MCU, ladies and gentlemen. Did it in about 13 minutes-ish, not too shabby if I do say so myself. There was a lot to cover. I hope you all were able to keep up. But again, just go see the movie. Just go see the movie. It's going to be a great event. I'm going to be there tonight. Obviously, I'm really looking forward to it. Like, you have no idea. Like, this video is going to go up at noon. I'm not going until 7:15. That 7 hours and 15 minutes is going to be the longest 7 hours and 15 minutes of my life. Honestly. But that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Comment down below what your favorite movie in the MCU is. Let me know down below. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next video. God, Endgame's here, guys. I'm so excited.